want your secrets. They want your power. Malagast would take what is yours.
The scaly behemoth known as Neltharion entered his sanctum, bared teeth, peering down at a puny figure struggling to free itself. Not only impaled by a huge stalagmite thrusting up through its heaving chest, but also bound by thick iron chains. The being's mouth was moving frantically, as if furiously shouting something. However, no sound was escaping its face. But the dragon then sighed at his prisoner and blinked.
Your skin is a cloak. He'll feed your flesh to his hounds. Sargeras will keep your soul in a vial, ever to torment in his...
The dragon blinked again, and the cavern returned to silence. Blessed silence.
You will learn respect. You are in the presence of my glorious self. I, Neltharion, am the Earth Warder. You will treat me with the reverence I deserve.
The bound Eridar's mouth continued to flap, and Neltharion just shook his head. He'd expected better from this demon. Eridar warlocks were supposed to be erudite, among the commanders of the Burning Legion. Not only skilled in casting spells, but well versed in battle tactics. The dragon had expected intelligent conversation, not idle threats and panic-stricken bullshit. But, then again, Neltharion had not sent his flight out to pluck a demon from their rampaging horde for conversation. No, this captive had another purpose. A grand one. Albeit one that they would unfortunately never come to appreciate.
It's time.
Yes. Time.
The black dragon then raised one paw up and concentrated real hard, with a golden aura immediately flaring to life in his palm. A glow so brilliant that even the captive demon's incessant mouth flaps paused for a moment, slightly unsure by the tiny unassuming gold disc the dragon was thrusting towards him. But the Eridar's mouth then returned to a flapping, with mockery in his eyes. Good, Neltharion thought. He does not recognise the strength of the disc, meaning others would likely assume its harmlessness as well. At the Earthwarder's silent command, the object then started to levitate, floating towards the demon, and gently settling on the poor unsuspecting bloke's forehead.
Speak them. Say the words.
The dragon then began uttering words, in a language not from the mortal world, words tinged with an evil that made even the mouth-flappy demon quiver. To the Earthwarder, though, these words were the best sounds he'd ever heard. Perfect musical notes. The language of gods. And as Neltharion spoke them, the disc began to glow ever brighter, its radiance filling the entire chamber. And then the Eridar exploded. It's much more drawn out and violent in the book, but I don't have the budget or skill set. Anyway, Neltharion then stared with admiration at what he'd just achieved. He commanded some pretty extraordinary forces now.
Neltharion.
The Earthwarder very quickly smothered his own desires. He knew that touch well.
Neltharion, I must speak with you.
What is your wish, dear Alexstrasza?
There are dangerous forces at work again, playing around the palace of the Night Elven Queen. We must come to some decision, and soon.
Fear not. What must be done will be done.
I pray it will be so. How soon can you make the journey to the chamber?
The dragon's mouth pursed into a smile as his crimson gaze shifted to the disc. Perhaps he should go there now. The others would all be there. It could be done.
No, not yet. The timing must be right, or they will steal what is yours.
Not now, but soon.
Okay then. Please, hurry, Neltharion.
Alexstrasza then left the Black Dragon's thoughts as quickly as she'd entered them, and Neltharion hesitated for a moment. Did she know? Had his thoughts betrayed him? Meanwhile, at the now ruined city of Zinashari, despite the fact that blood still very much stained the streets, and the stench of death filled the air, those night elves that remained within the city just went about their business, as if nothing had changed. Not a single one of them seemed at all fazed by the fact that they were surrounded by death. And demons. Hundreds upon hundreds of demons of the Burning Legion yet remained within the city as well. Felguard, Doomguard, Fell Beasts, all of the things. But worse than that, deep within the palace itself, a much more horrific scene was currently playing out. A circle of robed highborn, waving their arms about and chanting again.
Faster!
Mannoroth moved about on his 4 fat legs, impatiently. Felt like he'd been waiting bloody ages for the continuation of this plot. Like an entire different series that no one liked had been done in the interim. But he was also antsy because he'd been given a command by his master and failed. Something which had never happened before.
I said faster! Must I rip the head off another of you pathetic vermin?
She won't approve of you doing that again, my lord.
Would she complain as much if I chose to give her your head, Captain Varathen?
Probably.
No sign of emotion flickered across the captain's face, which only served to piss Mannoroth off even more. However, before absolutely crushing the bloke's skull with one meaty fist, Mannoroth paused. His master had decreed early on that the Queen of the Night Elves and those important to her were to remain untouched. And with the death of the Queen's former advisor Lord Xavius, this captain was now especially untouchable, having become the Queen's liaison. Whenever she opted to not gift everyone with her presence, Varathen would attend in her place. Everything he saw and heard would be reported back to his mistress. And if Mannoroth had learned one thing in his short time here on this shithole of a world, it was that Queen Ashara was much more cunning than she let on. Her languid displays were perhaps a little bit calculated. The Pit Lord Commander was actually very curious to see what his master's plan for her would be once he finally arrived. If he ever finally arrived. The portal had collapsed under a magical assault. Mannoroth still didn't know exactly what had happened, but it sure had thrown a spanner in the works. Some survivors of the assault had informed of an invisible foe, so Mannoroth had dispatched hunters to seek that asshole out, but the first priority was restoring the portal as soon as possible. Unfortunately, so far all they'd managed to achieve was a fiery ball of energy. One that, upon inspection, did not contain eternity. 'Twas a well of absolute bugger all. Definitely not some kind of demon's hole.
They're weakening.
Mannoroth snarled, but could see that the captain spoke true. So, the monstrous demon reached out with his mind, thrusting himself into the spellwork. Initially, this intrusion shook the highborn sorcerers, causing them to throw a bit of a wobbly, but the Pit Lord then seized control, refocusing them all. And under his guidance, the sorcerers then pressed as never before, with their eyes widening fully, and their bodies shaking manically from the physical and magical stress of it all. And still, the floaty ball of fire refused to give. But failure was not an option, not in the Burning Legion. No one escaped the wrath of Sargeras. So, Mannoroth pushed even more furiously, tearing from the Night Elven sorcerers every ounce of power that he could. And understandably, they were now starting to scream at the top of their lungs as a result. But it worked. Suddenly, a small point of utter blackness formed at the centre of the fiery ball, and a voice filled the Pit Lord's mind.
Mannoroth?
Balls. This was not the voice of Sargeras. It was a different person's voice. A twatty person.
The way is open again.
We've waited too long. He's disappointed in you.
I did all that was
The
possible.
way must be made completely open for him. I will see to it that it is finally done. Be ready for me, Mannoroth.
With that, the blackness within the fire started to spread.
To your knees!
The Night Elves around the room quickly obeyed Mannoroth's sudden outburst, especially since the Pit Lord himself was now also kneeling.
We're ready. We, the unworthy, await your presence. Ah, come on.